Thanks very much, Rachel. I hope this works. And good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me along. It's really been some inspirational talks today, and I've loved hearing this sort of range of discussions from the economy, from culture, and everywhere from the social side as well. So thank you ever so much for inviting me along. As Rachel said, I am the Nature Recovery Network Partnerships Manager, which is quite a long title. I work for Natural England, and I have a bit of a dual role. I also am a farmer as well, so I try to get out in the real world. So I am one of those white middle class males which fall into both being a farmer and work in the environment sector. So yeah, we need to do work on that. So I'm just going to share some slides. I hope that's okay and everyone can see the slides. And yep. So, as I said, I am Chris Davis, and I'm going to talk about the Nature Recovery Network. I am going to talk about it from a national perspective, not just in relation to the Tees Valley. I have visited the Tees Valley, and I was trying to remember when. It was when I think I just at the outset of my career, and I came down to Tees Mouth National Nature Reserve, and it still sticks with me now, actually, seeing the amazing wildlife in the sort of juxtaposed position of the industrial background. And I still think back to myself now about how if nature can recover and thrive in that environment, then we can achieve it across anywhere in England. So I'm just going to talk about what the NRN is, how we propose for it to be delivered, and a bit of an overview on the timetable and planning. Where the NRN has come from and the background and the need, it all stem from Professor John Lawton's review, going back quite a while now, into the state of nature. And Professor John Lawton proposed that we needed to recover the state of our nature, and the very much the principles from that were fed into government's 25-year plan, which set out some high-level objectives for the Nature Recovery Network. But we still look back to Professor John Lawton's review when that still very much frames our thinking in terms of the direction of travel. The 25-year plan is very high level, but will be further refined and informed through a developing new nature strategy from DEFRA. And where we sit in terms of the Nature Recovery Network Delivery Partnership, it is at the bottom of the tree in terms of the delivery side. So the policy framework is very much from the 25-year plan and John Lawton's review, and that feeds down into the delivery partnership at a national level. So why do we have a Nature Recovery Network? The Nature Recovery Network really provides this first time to have a fully integrated approach to nature recovery. We know that it is needed and necessary, but we also know that we cannot deliver this by ourselves. So what we need to do is integrate the people side, the partnerships. We need to integrate the planning side, and we need to integrate the funding side as well. There are three main objectives in the NRN, but there are some additional ones as well. But the first one is to significantly improve the condition of what we've got. So our existing protected sites, our SSSIs, our Natura sites, our national nature reserves, they still require a lot of additional work and protection to get them up to a decent condition. The second one, and this is the one that I think the partnership focuses on more than anything, is to go beyond protection, to look at recovery. And to do that, the government has committed to creation of at least 500,000 hectares of new wildlife-rich habitat across England. To put that in perspective, that's about the area of Norfolk. So it's quite a large, ambitious recovery. And the third objective is around the recovery of wildlife populations and lost species to their natural ranges. So what is a nature recovery network? It always gets a bit confusing because people talk about nature recovery networks, local nature recovery networks. And I think to make it really simple, there will be one nature recovery network. There will be a single national network to benefit people and wildlife. I live down the Blackdown Hills, way down south in Devon, and I think our vision, our ambition is that we would have a network where Devon would be connected to the Tees Valley through a series of wildlife-rich habitats that connected up across the country. It will, as I say, provide this integrated approach, and as I've mentioned, wildlife sites are to be enhanced, and they will be the core of the networks. The network will grow from what we've already have. It will build on a lot of the good work. Like the gentleman from the NFU mentioned this morning, there's been an amazing amount of great work already done. We need to build on that and start connecting it up. I mentioned the enhancements will be really focused around expanding those and connecting them up and creating these stepping stones. It's clear that a lot of our wildlife is restricted because and under pressure because it can't move, it can't connect into places, it can't join up. So that's one of our key focuses. I mentioned enhanced sites will be at its heart. We will not just be leaving it at that. This is about connecting sites up and creating buffer zones around those areas, and also thinking about, all right, we're going to have these linear networks and these connections, but we also need to start thinking about how we can deliver nature recovery at scale. So how can we recover nature within a landscape and develop some of what's being referred to as large nature recovery area projects to fit into the network? It's a challenge, to say the least. We are trying to recover, 100 years or so of decline, and that's no easy task. The challenge that is set ahead of us is absolutely enormous, and to do that, we really need to focus on to recover that and start to recover that. We're going to focus on three key things. And these are three of the big programs of work under the NRN. And the first one is around having some spatial planning, some spatial tools that will help target and help to plan the NRN nationally and locally. The second is about strong partnerships, including government, landowners, managers, business, local communities, and conservation organisations. We cannot do this by ourselves in Natural England or in government. We need you, and we need as many people as possible to participate in this. The third area is the integration of nature into our policy framework and critically our key funding streams. I'll come on to all of these in a bit more detail, but these are sort of, I look at sort of as a three legs on a stool, really. And we've never had this before. We've never had these three areas working together, and the recognition that we need the funding, but we need also some spatial planning, and we need people and partnerships to help deliver it. So I'm going to talk a bit about spatial planning. It gets a little bit technical, but I hope I don't lose everyone. Under the Environment Act, which is going through Parliament at the moment, there is a proposal in that Act to have a new spatial plan called Local Nature Recovery Strategies. What are local nature recovery strategies? They are essentially a local plan that says where nature recovery should be prioritised. It's nothing more than that. However, there is some nuance to it and some underpinning planning. So there'll be a new system of spatial strategies that will, one, map the most valuable existing habitats of nature, coming back to what we've already got. Secondly, map specific proposals for creating or improving habitat for nature. These are the integration of the connection of these sites, but also bringing in those wider environment goals. How can Nature Recovery Network support climate offsetting? How can it support people engagement? How can it support greater access? And the third area is to agree on the priorities for nature recovery within that space. How is that going to happen? It's going to happen through actions we identify through a transparent, locally led process. This is about being practical, not theoretical. So this is about identifying spaces on the ground. LNRSs are non-binding, but it's an open and constructive process. But the Environment Bill will require all public bodies to have regard to LNRSs, and responsible authorities have to report on progress every 5 years. So it's a 5-year process to review. LNRSs will also and critically help channel investment to local priorities for nature recovery. These will also hope to speed up planning decisions to identify where net gain should be identified and prioritised, providing a clear path for that avoidance, mitigation and compensation. So they are a multi-purpose spatial tool that will really help drive forward nature recovery. They are absolutely critical in identifying in a place where investment should be focused and where projects should be planned. Once we've got some spatial planning in place, and we need to collaborate. We cannot do this by ourselves. We recognise the delivery of the Nature Recovery Network will be done by landowners, by land managers, by charities, by farmers. We need to support everyone to enable that delivery to happen. To do that, we are doing 2 key things. One, we have developed a national delivery partnership, which I lead, and that will provide a national perspective. We are developing a plan, and that will hopefully provide and help galvanise progress in terms of NRN engagement. The partnership is open to any organisation willing to support the NRN delivery. And we really want you to become a partner and help that process. You know, this is not about us telling you what is going to happen. This is about having a dialogue and a discussion, and, you know, developing plans together. We have a management group, which again, I'll come on to that in a second, but is very different to what we've tried before. That's the national partnership. We are also focusing on local partnerships and supporting local partnerships. Natural England has invested in a NRN lead in every area now. We have a new senior advisor in place looking at how we can support existing partnerships like the ones we've heard from today, but also create new ones when required. So this is who's on our Nature Recovery Partnership. We have tried to expand this as much as we can, but we recognise there are still gaps. There are still areas where we need to get people on the management group to hear as many voices as possible. The third key area, the third leg on the stool, is about integration into existing funding. So there is government money coming that is existing and coming on stream, as we've heard a little bit, around future schemes and biodiversity net gain. The funding from those needs to support and be integrated into the Nature Recovery Network to enable it to deliver critically. In addition to that, there's wider government funding in relation to the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, which some of you may have applied for, the Nature for Climate Fund focusing on trees and peat, nature-based solutions, also new protected landscape funding coming on stream. All are aligning as much as possible to support NRN. But we also recognise the government won't be able to fund it all. And we need to engage the private and other sectors. As we've heard from today, businesses are really interested in doing their part for nature recovery, and the Nature Recovery Network needs to provide for those opportunities for integration with the private sector in relation to both their net zero commitments and their biodiversity commitments. That piece of work is only just starting, but it's incredibly exciting. And the conversations we've had with the business sector is, where have you been? We've been waiting for you. The door's open. Come and talk. Let's plan. Let's get moving on this. So NRN timetable. The next few years are going to be, I always describe them as the messy few years. They are going to be complex because we are taking forward LNRSs and the local planning at the same time as recognising we need to roll up our sleeves and start delivering. That's going to be very challenging and complex, but it is absolutely necessary. We can't just wait for the plans to be in place to start that process of delivery. The good thing about the NRN, and it's what's different, is it's a long-term plan. It's not a 2-year, 3-year project. It's a 20-plus year programme of work to fundamentally change the outlook of nature in England. We've completed LNRS pilots in 5 locations: Northumbria, Cumbria, Manchester, Cornwall and Buckinghamshire, and they are due to report soon. And we are planning some seminars, which you'll all be welcome to attend to understand more about LNRSs. Environment Bill going through Parliament at the moment, hopeful royal assent later this year. And the implementation will start in earnest in spring next year. I always finish on this slide, and it always feels about why things are different. Sorry, have I overrun?
Yeah, just a little bit of a time check.
Okay, fine. I will. It's my last slide, so I'm going to run through this. Why is it different? Firstly, massive commitment and engagement from government. We recognise this as an across government priority. The Prime Minister's talking about it. This is something nature is on the political agenda. Funding and policy integration. It's not just single funding options now. We're looking at funding across the board. Time. It's not a short-term project. COVID's been mentioned. Public support and interest in this is expanding, and the range of partners and landowners and businesses that are interested are always increasing, and we are absolutely delighted that they are. And I'm going to end there, if that's all right. My final slide is to say, if you want to become a partner, then please email us. There's more information on gov.uk, and that's where I'll end. Thank you very much.